Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 301 for the 27th of July 2014. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. A little bit of canned applause from the amazing meeting in Las Vegas. I'm still coming down from it, folks. It was such a great time, such a busy time. It's such a wonderful time. In fact, we're going to have some few last rounding off type interviews from the amazing meeting. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do as many interviews as I'd hoped there. I was pretty busy. I wanted to interview this person and that person and this person and around the corner, and you know what? I really needed Maynard there. Folks, I really needed Maynard there. He couldn't make it this year, but it's great when he was there. A couple of years ago, I sent him off with the microphone. Didn't see him for days, and when he'd finished, he had something like 40 interviews. Ah, Maynard, you're a wonder. Anyway, coming up on this week's show, we're going to kick off with some interviews from the amazing meeting. I managed to get anyway. We've got Carl Saunders, who does carbon dating comics. We've got a wonderful lady called Cathy Smith, who is just a sort of your everyday wonderful type skeptical person at TAM. So we chat to her, and a real character at TAM, Spoony Quine, who's an artist and has a blog called The Mad Science Writer. And she does artwork. She draws pictures from the solar flare, the Skeptic Zone solar flare adventure. The people you meet, folks, the people you meet. So one last taste of TAM, I guess until next year. Following that, we have a special report from our good friend Bob Blaskiewicz from the Houston Cancer Quack website about the Burzynski Clinic and the latest updates and news on that particular character. I think you'll find his report very interesting. As always, we have a week in science from www.riaus.org.au, the Royal Institution of Australia. Hello, Paul Willis. I should come and visit you soon, I hope. Who knows? And then to round up the show, speaking earlier of Maynard, yes, it's Maynard's Spooky Action. What an interesting Maynard Spooky Action it is. Maynard's going to be talking to some pharmacists and a pharmacist student. Pharmacists, you know, they're the sort of the front line of medical science in our community in many ways. When people have an ailment, they'll often go to the pharmacist before they go to the doctor. Now, I must admit I've had a bone to pick with many pharmacies in this country over the years because, sadly, many chemist shops, many pharmacies, well, to be blunt, sell quackery, homeopathy, snoring rings that work on acupuncture points and this sort of stuff. I even have bought magical power bands in pharmacies in the past in this country. So I am not completely happy with what happens in pharmacies, I'll have to admit it. Nevertheless, I know there are many pharmacists out there who do a great job and aren't very happy with the fact that this quackery is being sold. Anyway, Maynard gets the lowdown on what it's like to be a pharmacist later on in the show. Now, I must say a really big thank you to all those people out there who are tweeting and Facebooking and blogging my documentary, The Vaccination Chronicles, which went out last week. And there's even an effort to get Bill Gates to tweet it, and Stephen Fry. Oh, that would be nice, folks. That would be nice. I'm now working, because of all the requests, I'm now working on the DVD of the Vaccination Chronicles, which will have extra features on it, extended interviews, the stuff that I couldn't quite fit into the documentary. That will be available eventually in PAL for the countries around the world that use the PAL system, and in the NTSC version for North America. It'll be region-free, of course. And when that comes out, I'll only be selling that at a price which covers the costs of production and mailing. This is not an exercise for me to make a profit. The YouTube video is free to view, of course. Well, there's no ads on it. You're free to copy it and download it and view it and show it and look at it again, whatever you want to do. The idea is to get the word out about the importance of vaccination and what it was like before when parents live with a very real fear that their babies and their children could succumb to these horrible diseases. If you haven't seen the documentary, well, if you go to skepticzone.tv and scroll down, you'll be able to see it there. And I'll certainly be keeping you all updated on the progress of the DVD. I'm going to brush up my old DVD authoring skills. I've authored quite a few DVDs in my time and haven't done it for a little while. But that's something I'll really look forward to, getting that DVD out. Well, that's enough for me. I'm going to... Oh, hello, Fred. It's Fred the cat. Oh, I missed you, Fred. Hello, sweetie. Yeah. He's lying on his favourite cushion next to me here. How are you? You all right? Oh, he likes to scratch behind the ear. Don't they all? Don't they all? Fred, what do you think I should have this week? If I go run down to the fridge, run downstairs and open the fridge, what do you think I'll find? I know what I'll find. It's not in the fridge, Fred. No, it's in a packet. Instant miso soup. Not bad. I'm going to have some of that. While I have... Oh, big yawn from Fred. Am I that interesting, Fred, am I? No, while I'm doing that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Las Vegas at night, and we're outside the South Point Casino, and it's like we've walked into an oven. I kid you not, my friends, it's incredible. The contrast. It must be over, I don't know, it's 40 plus degrees out here. There's a hot air blowing on us. Wow, there is a hot air blowing on us. I think we're going to have to stand over here. No? Oh, go back over here. Where's that hot air coming from? The desert winds. I think it's the desert winds. We'll carry on. Last year at the Amazing Meeting, I met a man who did the comic strip and does the comic strip Carbon Dating. Who are you? Why are you here?
Hello, Australia. I am Kyle Saunders, and I've launched a year ago and have come back this year to TAM.
I saw you at your table, the Carbon Dating table, very popular, the comic strip. What's the URL straight away?
carboncomic.com. And it's gone extremely well. Since last year, things have really picked up. The comic strip is now in the American Skeptical Inquirer magazine, as well as full-page illustrations I do for Skeptic magazine.
That's fantastic. And what's the basic philosophy of Carbon Dating comic strip?
My philosophy is that if you can make a friend laugh at an irrational idea, maybe they won't take it so seriously in the future. So the comic strip features a group of friends who all have their different irrational beliefs, and it addresses them over time.
Wow. And you had some great news I saw yesterday. It was today. I've lost, you know what, all these days have sort of blended together. There was a big cheer went up from your table. What was that all about?
Yes, our big disruptive cheer was because we launched a Kickstarter which would allow me to hire an artist to help with the project. That artist would be able to put out a comic strip every day. So we're very excited. And our initial kickstarting, Kickslammer, our original goal was met in 3 days. And we have another 27 days to continue to raise money and put it into the project.
Step with me. We're going to walk through this double door here because the desert winds, my friends, are blowing. We've just sort of stepped into this anteroom here. That's insane out there.
It is.
That's absolutely insane. So how many Carbon Dating comic strips have you created now?
Oh, there's been over 115 over the last year. I do 2 a week.
2 a week?
But
that's quite something, because I don't know if our listeners have ever done this. I've done it a few times. I've actually written a comic strip for a magazine.
Oh, great.
As it happens. I don't profess to be great at it, but I have done it. And it's not that easy to come up with a 4 or 5, well, what do you use, 4 panels?
I do 3, actually. I went from 4 to 3, but it's...
To come up with a funny and succinct point and to make a point with humour in 3 panels.
Well, and then draw it, too.
And draw it is quite
it takes
a skill.
time.
Yeah.
But readers, and they're right, it's not enough. You really should have something every day if you're doing a comic strip, and that's what I'm hoping to do. So
it gives new respect when you read the funnies in the newspaper.
It's amazing that they do that.
I mean, these people, you work very hard to not only come up with the creativity and the idea and the humor, but as you say, the artistic endeavor.
Well, and with an artist, then I can write full time, and I can script it out, and she can take care of the actual pencil and ink characters. We've been working together, so we'll have a great team, and I'm excited that the Kickstarter is already at a point that we know that's going to happen.
That's fantastic. I admire you. I wish I could do that for a living sometimes.
Well, I wish I could do it for a living too, but that's not. I'm a pilot. This is a hobby that I do in the evening.
I remember now. You're a pilot. Yeah.
So this is an expensive hobby right now, but hopefully with the Kickstarter it can actually support itself.
That website again?
Carboncomic.com.
Carboncomic.com. Have a look, folks. And now you've met the man behind Carbon Dating.
Thank you very much.
It's just one of those afternoons at the Amazing Meeting where people have just gone in for a session. There are still a lot of people out here in the hall walking by the Australian Skeptics table. And I'm with Cathy Smith. Hi. It says, yes, I'm the Cathy Smith. What does that mean?
Well, it's a very common name. And one of the workshops, I was mentioned as an example as a blogger, and that didn't want to blog, and so she said, my friend Cathy Smith, and so that's the Cathy Smith she was referring to.
What's your blog?
I wrote a couple of articles on Skeptic Inc. The first one was on dietary supplements. The second one was on flu vaccines in the workplace for healthcare workers. And the third one was about vitamins.
Okay. And I met you here last year at the Amazing Meeting.
Yes.
And I seem to remember singing songs with you long into the night in the Delmar. This is your second tam.
Yes.
Second tam.
Yes.
And what got you into skepticism?
Oh, wow.
And why? And then that road led you to tam, right?
Yeah,
Eventually, yeah.
Well, I was studying homeopathy.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. We moved up from Texas to Michigan, and I was 4 months pregnant, so I didn't want to find a job. So his work offered me money towards either finding a job or towards education. And, I've had family being from Germany. I've had family that always subscribed to homeopathy.
It's big over there, I think. Yes.
Yeah, and as a pharmacist, I was curious. And the British Institute of Homeopathy offered a course especially for pharmacists. And it was in the exact amount that that my husband's job was offering me.
Wow.
And it's like,
there you go. Yeah.
I should definitely take this course.
Yeah.
And it was kind of strange. It didn't match anything that I learned in pharmacy school.
What a shock horror.
I was kind of, I guess I was pretty gullible, that a university would teach something. I mean, if a university is teaching something, I thought, well, it has to be true. Why would they? Right. Yeah. So I had a difficult time reconciling that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that was really something that sparked your interest in skepticism in general, or?
Somehow I got led into skepticism. Yeah. I had a little iPod that my brother gave me, and learned how to download podcasts, and I wanted to educate myself in things I was interested in, and I came across Mark Crislip and his Quackcast, and I was hooked. And
it's a good podcast, that one.
Yeah, and he mentioned Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
Yes,
and I feel like I'm part of their family now.
Yeah. They're all gone at the moment. They're usually on the table right next to this table.
Yeah.
I think they've all either gone to hear the talk or they're recording something right now.
Yeah.
So you're just one of the people that come along to TAM. We met singing songs last year after it was all
that
over.
was fun.
And it was really nice when I arrived and I was looking around and you turned up and there you were. And it was like, oh, great, I remember Cathy from last year.
I was amazed that you remembered me.
It's the singing that did it. No, and the fact that you speak German. I was
blown away that you remembered that.
Yeah. Well, Cathy, it's really great to see you here at TAM, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the convention.
Oh, I'm having a blast. It's so nice seeing you too, Richard.
Thank you.
If it isn't Spoony Quine, hi.
Hey, Richard, what's up?
Oh, it's the last day of TAM. Well, it's not. It's the day after the last day of TAM. There's a group of us down here at the Del Mar the morning after. Suitcases are packed, people are sitting around, it's that sort of a day. Now, Spoony, you are, I know, a particular fan of the Adventure Solar Flare.
I am. Yes, I think it is quite inventive, yes.
Inventive.
And clever, yes.
Thank you. And you did something really nice. You actually drew a portrait of me as Captain Saunders of the Solar Flare. On the bridge in my uniform, and it's really fantastic. And I think you're also working on another one where the Solar Flare crew are being attacked by the flying monkeys.
Yes, I am. I had like a lot of chaotic things going on in my life, and I'm like this close to being done, but like I had it packed up and I couldn't finish it. But I'll have to send it to you.
I have been wanting to see these in person.
Oh yes, you must. And
I've seen photos of these.
Now Spoony's actually showing us some of her current art collection.
Yeah.
And Spoony, you've been coming to TAM now for 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you keep coming back, so I guess you enjoy it.
Oh, yes. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I mean, even though I was packing, like I was going to court with the crazy landlords and packing up my stuff, and I didn't have a place to live when I came here, I was like, but I'm still going to TAM.
Right.
And now, at least I also have a place to move into, so that's cool. So when I get my art stuff, I will unpack my drawings.
I see. Well, that says something. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed TAM again this year, and who knows? Maybe we'll see you back here in 2015.
I hope so. I really do. I'm planning on it.
Now, Spoony, I think you've got a blog, don't you?
Yes, it's called Mad Science Writer.
So you put your mad science writings and thoughts down on your blog there.
I do. Although life has been completely hectic, I haven't been able to that much recently. Actually, but I'm fully planning on it in my new place. Hopefully, I'm just able to get my brains together. Dr. Carl Burzynski, I was actually discussing this with him, and he was encouraging me to how good writing habits.
That's good. A lot of people were running up to
write
Dr.
all the
Carl.
time. Yeah.
When he was here, Dr. Carl was a really popular man, and I was very pleased because a lot of Americans don't know who he is, but after TAM, a lot did.
He's slowly spreading his influence. Yes, he's very awesome. And Carl was writing all through TAM, and he wrote his.
Yes.
He rewrote his talk or something while at TAM, or
he did, yeah. That's the sort of man he is. And Spoony, this is the sort of person people meet when they come to the amazing meeting.
It is, and I am also the kind of person people meet.
Thanks, Spoony.
And yes, okay.
Hi, I'm Finn.
And I'm Rebecca.
And we're the Skepticons.
Skepticons is an Irish podcast by the Dublin Skeptic Society. It takes a conversational, reverent look at science, news and skeptical topics from an Irish perspective.
You can find us at www.theskepticons.com.
You're always sparing with your strong finance.
This is Bob Blaskiewicz from the HoustonCancerQuack.com and the Virtual Skeptics. I want to update Skeptic Zone listeners to the state of the Burzynski effort in the United States, as there have been a number of positive developments in the last few weeks that suggest that the Texas Medical Board is throwing everything that they have at the Burzynski Clinic. Stanislav Burzynski, as you may know, is the Houston cancer quack who sells off-label urea cycle drugs as an alternative chemotherapy to patients with the most intractable childhood brainstem tumors under the auspices of over 60 15-year-old clinical trials that have never generated meaningful results and that can cost patients upwards of $30,000 to begin. Patients who are not on his apparently unpublishable trials can enter Burzynski's private practice, where he prescribes cocktails of low-dose chemotherapies and always sodium phenylbutyrate, which he manufactures. He does this on the basis of the equivalent of genetic palm reading. He calls this personalized targeted gene therapy. On the heels of the FDA's baffling decision to allow Burzynski's ridiculous trials to proceed, 3 documents have been released by the Texas Medical Board. The first is a ruling on the part of the board that Burzynski's employee, Dr. Robert Weaver, had been disciplined. Weaver is small potatoes in the Burzynski saga, but what was most interesting to me about this ruling is how the Texas Medical Board described the relationship between Burzynski, Weaver, and patient care. First, quote, respondent, Weaver, and his employer, Dr. Stanislav Burzynski, implemented multiple therapies which had insufficient evidence of clinical efficacy and high probability of additive toxicities. And second, respondent admitted that he participated in regular meetings with Dr. Burzynski to discuss the patient's case and to formulate a treatment plan, describing the process as a, quote, team effort. The latter finding is an important point, given how Burzynski slithered away from the last round of medical board actions. He claimed that he wasn't treating patients, that his employees were, essentially throwing them under the bus. It seems to me that Weaver has been cooperating, and that, I think, bodes well for the board's upcoming actions against Burzynski. The next document, dated June 13th, outlines a series of charges leveled against another Burzynski clinic employee, Dr. Jinhua Yi. Again, we see charges related to a patient on the so-called targeted gene therapy track. There are charges of ordering unnecessary tests, failure to provide medical rationales for the tests, prescribing drugs with overlapping toxicity profiles, again without medical rationale, and non-therapeutical prescribing of the Burzynski Clinic's signature drug, sodium phenylbutyrate, which, as I said, is manufactured by Yi's employer. Again, this is another good sign. The last document was released during the amazing meeting, and it was a humdinger. Here's how 1,000 TAM goers responded when George Hraab announced its release.
Here's some actual good news. Check this out, guys. This is actually really cool, and I'll do it in the appropriate voice to this music. Today, the Texas Medical Board released 202 pages of charges against the Houston cancer quack, Stanislav Burzynski. That's right.
As outlined by Liz Szabo in USA Today this weekend, the new charges apply to 29 patients, including charges that he deceived patients in a number of ways, including, and I quote, by making patients pay a retainer before receiving any diagnosis or treatment, by performing unnecessary tests and non-therapeutic treatment with no potential to help them, by imposing exorbitant charges for drugs and lab tests without telling patients that he also owned the pharmacy and the lab being used, by allowing unlicensed staff to treat patients while describing the staff as doctors. Burzynski also prescribed unapproved combinations of highly toxic chemotherapy in ways that caused harm to several patients. End quote. This is encouraging, and I like to think that the pressure that skeptics have put on the medical board has contributed to the new charges and to the vigor with which Burzynski is currently being pursued. Listeners in the States can contact their representatives again and bring the new USA Today article to their attention to demonstrate the gravity of the situation. And please send any formal response you receive from your representatives to the email address skepticsprotect@gmail.com. The Skeptics for the Protection of Cancer Patients will forward those responses to Senator McCaskill's office. If you live in the state of Texas, you should contact the governor's office about this. Burzynski is well connected politically, and we just want to make sure the office knows that we're watching very closely. Thank you very much for all you've done and for all that you will do. We are making a difference. This is Bob Blaskiewicz from the HoustonCancerQuack.com and the Virtual Skeptics.
Marit.
Og jeg er Kristin, og vi vil tipse deg som norsk lytter av The Skeptic Zone om skeptikermiljøet i Norge.
Det finnes norske blogger og pubtreff og podcast, og foreningen Skepsis driver med ulike former for aktivisme.
Sentralt er skepsis.no, og her publiseres det dyptpløyende artikler, en kalender over skeptiske aktiviteter og lenker til andre skeptiske ressurser.
Skepsis-bloggen oppdateres jevnlig, og det diskuteres heftig på Skepsis-forumet, så stikk innom og delta du også.
Skepsis.no.
Hello, I'm Marit.
And I'm Kristin, and we want to let you know that there are lots of Norwegian skeptics for you to get to know.
There are blogs and pub meets and a podcast, and the Norwegian skeptics also do paranormal tests and consumer activism.
To find out more, Google Norwegian skeptics or visit skepsis.no.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are rapidly becoming part of our food chain. But are they safe? GMOs are plants or animals that have had their genetic code manipulated through genetic engineering. A leading myth about GMOs is that rats fed on corn modified to be resistant to a weed killer go on to develop cancer. This stems from a paper published in 2012 by a French research group. But the project was so poorly conducted, including using rats predisposed to getting cancer, that the journal retracted the paper in 2013. Furthermore, no independent test has been able to replicate the study's findings. An internet meme doing the rounds suggests that GMOs are responsible for killing off the humble honeybee. While it's true that honeybee numbers have been in steep decline across the Americas and Europe, this is not due to GM crops. The argument put forward is that some GMOs have a built-in insecticide called Bt toxin that's killing the bees. But Bt toxin is considered to be bee-safe because it only kills insects that eat the plant, not the bees which pollinate them. In fact, many beekeepers spray their hives with Bt toxin to get rid of other pest species while leaving the bees alone. Now, for fast facts about GMO safety. A recent count reveals over 33,000 peer-reviewed papers have been published investigating the safety of GMOs. To date, no serious problem has been identified. It's a myth that oils, sugars and other extracts from GMOs are somehow different from those derived from non-GMO crops, despite early predictions that genetic engineering would produce uncontrollable monsters or dangerous side effects. To date, none have been found, and fears that GMO traits can escape into wild populations are unfounded. After more than 20 years of GMO technology, it's never happened. We've only considered the science and safety of GMOs, and the science is in. They're safe. But there are other concerns about corporatisation of the food supply and the political and social handling of the introduction of GMOs that do require further discussion. Do you want to know more about GMO safety? Go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Paul Willis. We'll catch you back here next week.
On Maynard.com.au. AU.
Bunga, 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 bunga.
On today's show, amazing facts and things you never knew, with myself, Maynard, and
Tim Ferguson.
I thought we'd use the Avengers theme from the movie because you'd be pretty safe that no one saw the Avengers movie.
They gave me this stuff which the doctor described as the drug that killed Michael Jackson. And I thought, oh, well, that's comforting. It was a party, but I wasn't invited.
Isn't modern medicine great?
Oh, modern medicine is just the bee's knees. You think of people who say, yeah, the great thing about this is they've been taking it for centuries. Like in 3000 BC, people were taking this for the common cold. What they're saying is hard to understand because they're speaking through a nose of snot that will remain for at least 3 weeks.
On Maynard.com.au. AU.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
I'll start with my first question. I'm here with John Bell, a pharmacist and keynote speaker here today. What's your history as a pharmacist? How many years have you been, giving out the tablets and mixing stuff behind the screen?
Well, I've been a pharmacist in community practice for over 40 years now, Maynard. Wow. Seen a lot of changes, of course, and as you implied, initially it was just giving the tablets. It's still that. It's still dispensing and providing non-prescription medicines, but these days very much more so. It's providing advice to make sure the medication is used in the best possible way and the side effects are minimised, because we know with every medication there's an advantage and a disadvantage, so we need to optimise the benefits, minimise the risks.
Yeah, well, usually if it hasn't got any side effects, it hasn't actually got any effect.
That's absolutely right. We know that everything that works has the potential to do some damage, and most of the time not much damage, but of course the more potent medicines, the more likely they are to cause some problems if they're not used properly.
Now, what if people sometimes get stuck into the alternative side of medicine and sometimes delay actual medicine? Sometimes that can happen. They go, I'll try this alternative treatment, and that can actually not work or delay proper treatment.
I think it's really important to know that, unfortunately, there are medicines that work and those that don't, and that those that don't often fall into that alternative group, and sometimes they don't do any harm, but the harm they can do, of course, as you've indicated, is delaying good treatment. So our recommendation, of course, is always to get your pharmacist's advice, whether it's a prescription product or a non-prescription medicine, to make sure that you're using something that really works for you.
Oh, look, I'm just trying to think of actual medicines over the years, but there was a weight loss pill that took fat out of your body a few years ago, and I think it's still around. I'm not going to mention it, and it did have some nasty side effects that it's probably not prescribed very much anymore. You know the one I'm talking about?
I do indeed. Look, the side effect was actually an effect associated with its benefit as well. It took fat out, but of course
has to go somewhere.
It certainly does, and that could lead to very nasty, uncomfortable side effects that were not only uncomfortable but maybe disconcerting for the people around you as well.
Yes.
So look, that medication is still used, and of course used appropriately, it can work well. But I think that's the secret. The things need to be used appropriately. They need to be used with due care, and many medications which, when used properly, can be very effective. If used inappropriately or too much, not at the right time, then they can certainly cause very nasty effects.
Look, with all the years of pharmacy, do you think we've become, as a society, a little bit expecting the magic bullet for everything? And this has led to the overprescription of antibiotics, which I'm sure you're across, and that sort of thing. We expect pills to be able to cure everything now, when in fact maybe we should get off our butt and do some exercise occasionally.
Well, we're looking for the quick fix always, aren't we? And that really, there is no miracle cure. Exercise, regular exercise, good nutrition, really important. Hygiene, of course. And you mentioned antibiotics. We have become, or certainly the bugs have become resistant to them, and to a large extent they don't work anymore for some of the serious conditions. We need to be very careful the way we use antibiotics, particularly for things like upper respiratory tract infections. I'm thinking of colds and flu. By and large, antibiotics don't work there. So symptomatic treatment, an anti-inflammatory lozenge, maybe a pain reliever, perhaps a decongestant, depending on the symptoms. But antibiotics are not effective, and they're causing more problems by encouraging resistant organisms than their use. So antibiotic stewardship, as we call it, really important. If you've got a cold or the flu, go to your pharmacist first, get some symptomatic treatment. Antibiotics of no use. But good nutrition, as we talked about earlier, so good, healthy, balanced diet, plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables, rest as appropriate, reasonable exercise, hygiene measures to prevent the spread, and far better than anything else we can use. Of course, symptomatic treatment, if you've got aches and pains, a pain reliever's fine. If you've got a blocked up nose, something to open up the airways. If you've got an inflamed throat, anti-inflammatory lozenges, maybe some aspirin gargled and swallowed. Those not so recent remedies are often really effective.
You're talking to students here, master students, that are hoping to perhaps be on the front line of the pharmacy or run their pharmacy one day, so they've got to look after the financial thing, they've got to look after the tricky thing of people trying to come in and maybe put a sly prescription through for one of the more addictive kind of things, that sort of things. They're really on the front line, aren't they?
Yes, look, these students today that are coming out, these master students from the University of Newcastle, fantastic. They're at the cutting edge, not only of business management, but clinical procedures as well, and they will know exactly what's necessary. They know when medication is prescribed, the benefits, the risks, how to minimise the risks. They know how to optimise that therapy. They know when you come into them for non-prescription medicine, what to recommend for you, given your medical history of what you might be taking for maybe some chronic illness. So you can rely on these young graduates. They're fantastic.
They look like a pretty smart bunch. And what do you think is going to be the future breakthrough that we can expect within only, let's give it a 4-year span? What do you think will be the next? Will there be another great antiviral come out? Can we expect more powerful antibiotics to help with the situation that's existing at the moment? What do you think is going to be the next big cure coming out pharmacologically?
Well, I think the research that we're undertaking at the moment is quite amazing. We're hoping that there'll be new antivirals, new antibiotics. I think they'll be more than 3 or 4 years away. They could be a decade or even a generation away. But what we will get in the very near future are medications to treat long-term chronic illnesses like diabetes, like epilepsy, like asthma. We've got some medications coming through the pipeline now that will revolutionise the treatment of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which is becoming of epidemic proportions in Australia and indeed around the world. So prevention measures, of course, important, but those medications that are coming through now will really help people to have long, quality lives.
As your 40 years as a pharmacist, what do you reckon, the placebo effect? What do you think of that? Do you think it is really as powerful as people think?
The placebo effect is enormously powerful, and of course, particularly with conditions where the brain is involved, mental illness, depression, anxiety. But again, more than placebo is necessary for those chronic conditions as well. But we shouldn't diminish the benefits of placebo. That works pretty well too.
So if you're doing pretty good at school, would you recommend a career as a pharmacist to someone who's been doing it for 40 years?
I think the opportunities for the future for pharmacy are enormous. Great challenges, of course, in terms of business, in community as well, but opportunities fantastic too, in terms not only with the provision of medicines, but the provision of advice, monitoring the use of medicines, being involved, I guess, in partnerships with doctors and other health professionals in therapeutic outcomes, just tremendous opportunities.
And look, what position are you at the moment? You're actually an international pharmacist representative these days.
Well, I'm vice president of the International Pharmaceutical Federation, which represents...
So you're a big pharma guy, aren't you?
Well, I'd like to think so. Maybe not all that big, but look, it's again, international pharmacy is important too. We represent over 3 million pharmacists worldwide, over 100 different pharmacy professional organisations, and I might say, though, Australia's playing an enormous part.
I was going to say, look, you have to say that our health system is probably better than any in the world, really, isn't it?
Our health system in Australia is certainly one of the best, if not the best in the world. We complain a bit, we whinge a little about the cost, about the inaccessibility of some medicines from time to time, about getting to the doctor, but accessibility to health in Australia is second to none, no doubt about that, and it's cost effective as well.
Look, I'm here with one of the students. What's your name and where are you at in your studies?
Andrew, I'm in my final year of postgrad pharmacy. So I did an undergrad degree in medical science down in Sydney. So I'm originally from Sydney. And, so this is the final year of my 2-year master's degree in pharmacy at University of Newcastle.
And why did you choose pharmacy? Because you obviously had pretty good marks. You're a pretty smart-looking guy. Why pharmacy? Why not law, ballet,
I think ballet would suit me, but I think pharmacy is a great profession. You help the community. You're in a well-respected role in the community, and you also have the opportunity to own your own business, which is something I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yeah, which is what you've been getting tips on today from people that have run businesses for decades, pharmacies for decades. And it's a very challenging environment you're going into, because trying to sell anything to anyone now is hard, even in a pharmacy. What have you learned today?
Yeah, that's right. Times are tough in pharmacy. There's a lot of ongoing competition and push from supermarket chains like Coles and Woolies to have their say in the market. And these experienced pharmacists have told us what we need to do and how we can prevent that from happening, and basically how to run a successful business. And,
And what do you like with people? You had much experience with people coming up to you going, I've got a bit of a sore joint here, Andrew, what do I do?
Yeah, to be a part of someone's first point of contact when they have these sort of issues is definitely, kind of rewarding in a sense, to be a part of that helping process is definitely something that excites me. And when you solve their problems and they walk away with a smile on their face, it's definitely rewarding.
Look, as a layman, I find a few drugs absolutely fascinating, and not just the recreational ones. I find your antivirals are fairly interesting. As a pharmacist, and as you've learned over the years, what's the drug that you go, and we don't have to get into brand names here, but what's the one you go, wow, that works, that does that? What's the one you go, that's amazing?
Oh, all sorts of drugs, even the basic beta blockers for high blood pressure. It's just a common disease, and the fact that a simple drug can help lower blood pressure significantly just amazes me. And that's just one of the basic ones. There's all sorts of different medications for all sorts of illnesses. And
and you'd be just learning something at this stage every day that's amazing.
That's right. Every day you learn something new. Every day you get fascinated, and that's one of the best things about it. There's no boring day. It's always interesting, and it's something I really enjoy.
Look, I can see you getting out into your community there and just having a little small pharmacy there, or do you want to go big like Mr. Piggott over there?
No, I definitely like the idea of a small pharmacy, just one that the locals all know me, and definitely what my long-term goals are.
Let you know everyone. So if any troublemakers come in, you can go, hey, on your bike, guys. Yep.
That's it. No troublemakers in my pharmacy.
Look, thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. You might not be able to hear the quaint quacking of ducks in the background there. And I'm with someone who you might have seen his name on the side of a few chemist shops in your time. It's Chris Piggott. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Maynard, good morning to you.
How many years have you been a pharmacist?
Oh, let me think quickly. Let's say 46 years a pharmacist.
Why did you decide to get... was it a master or bachelor? What did you get back then? Was it a diploma, a bachelor's, or did they say you over there sell some aspirin? What did they do back 46 years ago?
I was in the first cohort of a Bachelor of Pharmacy at Sydney University. My parents and grandparents were publicans, and really I think that was a great training ground for, we still had a counter and I served alcohol.
You thought, you thought people are going to need a lot of aspirin from what I've seen. Yes, that's right. So were you making up stuff behind the counter a lot in those days?
Very much so. That's a good question. We made probably, I'd say 50% of all of our prescriptions were extemporaneously or handmade in those days.
Wow. Did they still have that stuff like laudanum or the opiate? Was that available back then?
Yes, it was. In the early days, the opiates were made in mixtures for people that had severe pain or chronic injuries with a lot of pain. Opiates were commonly used.
And these days, would a chemist mix up anything these days?
Yes, they still make it up, and but very, very few. So maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times a day. However, we still have to make liquid antibiotics every day, probably 10 a day or 20 a day for every young child needing a penicillin of forms. There are also specialist compounding pharmacists that you'll see in the community who are doing enormously intricate technical work.
Wow, okay. Wow. And what's your personal view on homeopathy? Let's ask a real controversial one there.
Well, homeopathy is, I think it at least it's safe, Maynard.
That's true.
In Europe, do you know, it's massively popular.
The worst that you're going to do is you're hydrating something.
Yes, and I think we're in an area where people often like something very safe for children's usage, and homeopathy is not something that we teach at university.
No, exactly the opposite then, in fact, which is why we're here today. You are teaching some actual active compounds that are in some of the pharmaceutical things that we do. We're at the Newcastle wetlands, and are you showing what plants are being used in pharmacology?
We've got a doctor who's taking them around the wetlands, first of all to show off this beautiful, unique site that Newcastle has, and he's showing them plants that were traditionally used by the Aboriginals, the early colonialists. He's showing them plants that are safe to ingest and plants that are dangerous to ingest. But our university, Maynard, is very much based on actual evidence-based medicines, and that's what we're doing. Is we're bringing top community pharmacists, experienced men and women, to speak to the pharmacists in a very small group enterprise. So we've got one pharmacist speaking with 4 students, and we're helping them understand the commercial business side of this profession. It's always been a duopoly. It's always had to have a commercial side to it as well as a professional side to it.
Yes, look, I always get concerned when I go into a pharmacy and there are too many other things to buy there other than pharmaceutical products. And I understand as a business you've got to have sundries or whatever you might call them in the shop, but it has changed a lot over the years, hasn't it?
It has changed, but think of us like a first aid station. So people can come into our pharmacy, there's no waiting time, there's no charge. People, through all my life, people have come in and said, Mr. Piggott, you know, is this dangerous? What's this on my son's leg? Is this head lice? You know, little questions that the public just want an answer. And I can say, you should take your child to the doctor. You should go to the doctor. There's been a few rare instances which have been had a huge impact on my life, where I've got people to hospital or I've got them into a doctor's surgery when they've been told that the doctor was booked out. But I have detected the fact that this was an emergency. Pharmacists do this every day, Maynard, every day of their life.
And these ones that are being trained up here, they are final year students at Newcastle, but you said they're master students. What's going on there?
Well, we have a master's program, and the pharmacists of the Hunter and all the people of the Hunter should be very proud that we teach pharmacy in the Hunter Valley at the University of Newcastle.
Well, because the medical school there has had an outstanding reputation for decades.
And I hope that we will too. This is our 10th year, but now we're changing to a bachelor program, which will be 4 years, and this will allow our bright young kids from all of the high schools, from Tamworth down to the Central Coast up to Grafton. We hope that they will channel themselves into Newcastle University. This is I call it a little school of pharmacy, but it's a great little school of pharmacy.
Now, what sort of things are they learning over there from the local experts? What sort of plants have we got around here that are used in certain medications now? Are there any?
Most of what they're learning, if I can just correct you on this, is business skills. They're learning from experienced pharmacists how they can find a job, make a job, and make themselves useful in the community. So some of it is communication. That's extremely important. People have got to know a pharmacist's job every day is communicating with young children, elderly people, sick people, people that want to stay well.
Okay. And you're trying to run a business too, and any kind of retail is difficult in 2014. It's really difficult.
It is, and that's the great advantage of having a dozen experienced professionals here, taking them through the challenges that they've had in their life and passing it on to these younger students so that they're forewarned is forearmed.
AstronomyCast takes a facts-based journey through the cosmos as it offers listeners weekly discussions on astronomical topics ranging from planets to cosmology. Hosted by Fraser Kane of Universe Today and myself, Dr. Pamela Gay of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, This show brings the questions of an avid astronomy lover directly to an astronomer. Together, Fraser and I explore what is known and being discovered about the universe around us. Join us each week as we take a facts-based journey through the cosmos at astronomycast.com.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you once again those wonderful people who came up to see me at the amazing meeting in Las Vegas. You know, folks, I had people bring me root beer, which I love. People brought some hot sauce, some lovely hot chili sauce. 2 bottles, in fact, one for me and one for Dr. Rachie. I must get Dr. Rachie her hot chili sauce soon. I had people bring me candy. Wow, what a wonderful bunch they are at the amazing meeting. Looking forward to the amazing meeting in 2015, and I'm looking forward to the Australian Skeptics National Convention featuring the Skeptics Guide to the Universe, Dr. Cole, Bettina Arndt, Dick Smith, lots of other people, Dr. Rachie speaking there, of course, and that's coming up in November, late November this year in Sydney. Visit convention.skeptics.com.au for more information and to buy your tickets. Wow, I can't wait to see all those people at the Australian Skeptics National Convention. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders and Fred the Cat, who's half asleep. Hello, Fred. Signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
Skeptic Zone.